Leave up to another live feed on Rashad Mitchell's YouTube channel. Let's get into it. Word of God, like the Spirit Study Bible. We're going to get into the March Madness book, 1951 Kentucky Wildcats. Let's get into it. Daniel. This is about God's sovereignty and history. Let's get into chapter 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to start with chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the third year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. Came to Jerusalem and besieged it. It means Jerusalem came under siege by Nebuchadnezzar's army, experienced the full scope of war trauma among the Jewish youth that Nebuchadnezzar took hostage were Daniel and his three friends. Although Daniel was a victim of war and the hostage of the Babylonian king, because of his unshakable faith in God, he did not give in to the mental attitude or emotional state of a victim. Regardless of your station of circumstance, in this fallen world of sin, suffering, and injustice, God calls you to see yourself in Christ not as a victim, but as a victor. Verse 4 says, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. Qualified to serve in the king's palace. That means when God gave Nebuchadnezzar the victory over Joachim in 605 BC, the Babylonian monarch took some of the temple articles and also some of the choice princes, since none of us structured several years earlier. The Babylonian Empire had grown so fast that they did not have enough of their own educated men needed to run the government. So Nebuchadnezzar took good-looking, healthy, well-educated young men to Babylon in order to teach them the Babylonian culture and language, and thus to make them useful in the king's royal service. Among them were Daniel and his 33 friends. In verse 7 it says, the chief official gave their new names to Daniel, the name Belshazzar, to Hananiah, Shadrach, to Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. Give them new names. That means in order for Daniel and his friends to enter the king's service, they need to have Babylonian citizenship. This was accomplished by giving Babylonian names. The young prince Daniel, God is my judge, was named Belshazzar. Bel, chief god of Babylon, protect his life. Hananiah, the Lord show his grace, was named Shadrach, servant of Aku, the moon god. Michelle, who is equal to God, who was named Meshach, the shadow of the prince. Or who is this? Azariah, the Lord helps, was named Abednego, servant of Nego, the god of Elizam, or the morning star. As citizens of Babylon, they now carry official responsibilities. Despite having these new names, these Jewish men resolved that they would remain loyal to the one true God. In verse 8 it says, but Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Daniel resolved not to defile himself. That means that Babylon's moral climate was totally pagan. We can be sure that what Daniel and his friends were being taught often contradicted God's law and righteous principles. The same food and wine served to King Nebuchadnezzar was served to them, food and wine that they may have been offered to idols. To eat each food would have disobeyed God's laws. To drink the wine would have dulled their minds because of its intoxicating effect. Number one, Daniel made up his mind from the start not to defile himself. He would not compromise his convictions, even if it meant death. Note that Daniel no longer had his parents around to guide him in his decisions. His love for God and his law had been so instilled in him as a child that he desired to serve the Lord from the heart. Those who are determined to remain faithful to God, who, when confronted with temptation, will be given the strength to stand firm for God. Because conversely, those who have not previously decided to remain true to God and his word will find it difficult to resist sin or avoid conforming to the ways of the world. Verse 12. Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Test your servants for 10 days means because Daniel and his friends were objects of the king's special attention, the king's wrath could fall on the official if he agreed to Daniel's request. Thus he refused. Daniel did not argue. Instead, with grace and dignity, he went to the guard who actually served their food and proposed an experimental 10-day diet. Verse 17. Verse 17. God gave, to these young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. And Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. God gave knowledge and understanding because the 4 young men were committed to God. God committed himself to him, help them. But if you are striving to be faithful to God and his ways, rest assured that he will remain with you and give you the help and grace needed to accomplish his will. Verse 20, and every man of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. And every man of wisdom 10 times better. At the final examination, Daniel and his friends stood healthy and unafraid before the king. They had remained faithful to the Lord, and by their demonstration of wisdom and knowledge, they gave testimony to God's power. Verse 21, and Daniel remained there until the first year of King Cyrus. First year of King Cyrus. This date was 66 years after Daniel was deported to Babylon. Daniel lived to see the first exiles return to Judah from the Babylonian captivity in 538 BC, since he was still alive in 537 BC. Chapter 2, verse 1. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled, and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. The king was greatly in trouble about his dream, and undoubtedly believed that the gods were trying to communicate something to him. Thus he called for the diviners to tell him the dream and its meanings. Verse 4. Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream. We will interpret it. Aramaic. Up to this point, the book of Daniel is written in Hebrew. Here it changed to Aramaic, which is the language of trade and of government communication at that time. Verse 5. The king replied to the astrologers, this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces, and your houses turned into piles of rubble. I have firmly decided. The king sensed the importance of his dream, wanted to put the Babylonian wise men to the test. If they could tell him the dream, which he probably remembered very well, and he would now know that they could give him the correct interpretation. And if they could not give him both, then he would destroy them. Verse 16. At this, Daniel went into the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Ask for time means being recent graduates. Daniel and his 3 friends were not called before the king with the rest of the wise men. Decreed to kill all of them, including those 4 as well. Daniel then approached the king. He asked for time to interpret the dream. He needed time to pray, to receive God's assistance. So the 4 Hebrew men sought the Lord earnestly in prayer and waited for his revelation. Intercession alters things in the spiritual realm, which enables change to occur in the natural realm through his God's intervention. Verse 19 and 23. On the night the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. And Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons, sets up kings and disposes them. He gives wisdom to the wise, not to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness. Light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, O God, O my fathers. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. Daniel praised the God of heaven. Daniel's first thought after God revealed the dream interpretation was to praise the Lord for his goodness and power. To break out in spontaneous expression of praise to God is characteristic of those who truly love and serve him. Verse 28 to 30. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown them King Nebuchadnezzar what will in days to come. Your dream and the visions that pass through your mind as you lay on your bed are these. As you were lying there, O king, your mind turned to things that can come. Revealed a mystery showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than other living men, so that you, O God, O king, may know the interpretation, that you may understand what went through your mind. A God in heaven who reveals mysteries. Daniel, that means Daniel took no personal credit for making the dream and its interpretation known to the king. We must be careful never to take the credit and glory for what God does through us. Because Daniel was humble, straightforward, and honest about God. And Nebuchadnezzar was able to make a proper response of acknowledging Daniel's God. Verse 37, 38. O you, O king, or the king of kings, the God of heaven, has given you dominion and power and might and glory in your hands. He has been mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds of the air, wherever they live. He has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. You are the head of gold. You are that head of gold. That means Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold, represented the Neo-Babylonian Empire, 605 39 BC. He died, the empire soon began to disintegrate. And verse 39 says, after you, another kingdom will rise, inferior to yours. Next, third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth, inferior to yours. Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom will be followed by an inferior kingdom, represented by the silver chest and arms. This kingdom will be the Medo-Persian Empire established by Cyrus. A third kingdom, symbolized by the bronze and belly, that was represent the Greek Empire established by Alexander the Great. In verse 40, finally there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks, smashes everything, and as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Fourth kingdom, strong as iron. That means the Iron Kingdom, it represents the Roman Empire, which began about 67 BC and subdued the world to a degree no empire had done previously. Verse 41 to 43, it says, just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with the clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. Just as you saw the iron mixed with black clay, so the people will be mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. Partly strong and partly brittle. That means the feet of iron and clay probably represented the nationalistic states that have existed in the area of the Roman Empire. And since the empire fell, some of them have been strong and lasted a long time. Also brittle, breaking up again and again. Verse 44 and 45. Let's get into it. Let's include this. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but will itself endure forever. It's the meaning of the visions of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true. Interpretation is trustworthy. Kingdom that will never be destroyed. I mean, the dream, a rock that cut out of the mountain, not by human hands who naturally struck the image of the feet. Not only were the feet destroyed, but the gold, silver, bronze, and iron clay all turned to powder and were swept away. And when Babylon gave way to Persia, the latter coalition remained part of the same image. The same was true of Greece and Rome, and is still true of the modern nationalistic states, all part of the same world system. Furthermore, we still have around us Babylonian astrology, Medo-Persian attacks, ethics, Medo-Persian ethics, Greek art, philosophy, both Roman law and the Roman idea that peace can be obtained by military might. According to Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the world order with its philosophy, values, and most be completely destroyed, in order that Christ's kingdom may be fully established. Secondly, the rock became a kingdom that filled the whole earth. This fifth kingdom is God's kingdom, established by Jesus the Messiah. It will fill the whole earth and extend to the new heaven and new earth. It can be sure the present world order will not last forever, that God's kingdom will last forever. Like chapter 3, Let's get into an image of gold. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, 90 feet high, 9 feet wide, set up on the plain of Dor in the province of Babylon. The image of God. Nebuchadnezzar may have carried out this proud act because as he had been revealed through Daniel, he was the head of gold on a statue in his dream. Nebuchadnezzar's empire had just risen to power, and he was undoubtedly trying to use religion to consolidate the many provinces he had added to his empire. He demanded worship of the image as a means of promoting loyalty to himself. He was not the first, nor was the last. World leader to try to use religion for political purposes of self-exaltation. Verse 2 of chapter 3, the dedication of the image. That means that at Daniel's request, his 3 friends were appointed by the king to a position of responsibility in Babylonian administration while Daniel served in the king's court. Daniel may not have been present among the officials' command to fall down and worship the gold image. He could have been traveling in the provinces at the time on a business trip for the king, or his responsibilities may have differed from those mentioned in this verse. Neither serve your gods. That means that though the Bible teaches us to obey, honor, and pray for those who rule over us, our first duty is to God himself. If we obey the first and greatest commandment, love the one true God with all our hearts, souls, minds, and strength, we cannot worship or give divine honor to any false God of any religion representing a God. God we serve is able to save. That means that in verse 17, 18, that means that neither the just situation of the astrologers nor the ugly threats of King Nebuchadnezzar frightened the three young men to compromise the integrity of their faith or personal convictions. They gave bold and unhesitating witness to their allegiance to the one true God. They had a hope and a faith that were fixed on him, who was their refuge and strength. They also knew that God's wrath against sin, disobedience, was far worse than human wrath. Thus, as an expression of unconditional faith, complete trust and total loyalty to God, they said, but even if he does not, they possessed a faith that trusted and obeyed God regardless of his consequences. Obedience and persevering trust in God, not necessarily the experience of deliverance, give true evidence of biblical faith. Like many of the great saints of the Bible, these 3 friends had their faith greatly tested. Verse 24, 25, the fourth looks like the son of the gods. That means the fourth man could have been an angel or a pure incarnate manifestation of Christ, so to protect Daniel's 3 friends and be with them to their time of great trial. Oh, that the meaning of the 3 Hebrew names corresponds to the deliverance God gave them. The Lord showed grace, Hananiah to them. The Lord helped Azariah them. The form of the fourth man in the fire was as one who was equal to God, Mishael. Finally, verse 30. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. These 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, remained true to God even at the possible cost of their lives. Served to condemn the spiritual and moral compromise, those who use contemporary influences and customs as an excuse for their worldly actions. God does not accept the reasoning that we may do something simply because everyone is doing it. We should diligently ask God to put a firm determination within our hearts to remain true to him and his word regardless of the consequences. So I'll be in chapter 4, 5, and 6 tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I'll see. That's it for Daniel chapter 1, 2, and 3. Let's get into the March Madness book real quick. The 1951 Kentucky Wildcats. 1950 tournament was undoubtedly a tough act to follow, but the task in 1941 tournament got a lot easier when the NCAA doubled the tournament from 8 to 16 teams. Now you had the field where it was winners from 10 conferences and 6 at-large teams, most of which came from independent schools. The tournament had no room for Bill Milkvy's 12 and 13 Temple squad. Milkvy was not only the best player in college basketball, leading the country in scoring and finishing second in rebounds and assists. He also had the best nickname basketball has ever seen, the Owl without a vowel. Despite his absence, the tournament produced a plethora of great games, including the Illinois 79-71 upset over 21-0 Columbia. The Illinois Illini rallied from 7 points down in that game, but the comeback of the tournament nearly belonged to Arizona, which trailed Kansas State by 21 in the first round. As Kansas State removed their starters, Arizona cut the lead to just 1 point late in the game before Kansas State escaped with a 61-59 victory. Simply put, Bobby Watson was meant to be a Kentucky Wildcat. As a kid, Watson idolized the University of Kentucky players dreamed of one day playing for the Kentucky himself. Teaming up with future Wildcat star Cliff Hagan, Watson was an all-star basketball player at Owensboro High School, where he was coached by former Wildcat guard Lawrence McGinnis. Watson discovered he had failed to land a scholarship at UK. When that happened, it was no stretch to say that he was crushed. Alabama coach Floyd Burdett offered him a roster spot. Facing Kentucky twice a year was not exactly something he relished. Burdett sought to win on his scholarship offer. Watson made this easy decision of his life. So overall, you know, he went to Kentucky. He's put on the freshman team. So by the time Watson reached his senior year, the Wildcats were 28-2, looking to win a third title in 4 years. Because before they could ever worry about championships, they would first have to beat the in-state rival Louisville in the first round, the opening round. As Kentucky received a quiet scare from the Cardinals, who led 64-60 late in the game, but late rally put Kentucky in the second round to face St. John's. Again, Wildcats would need a late comeback. They led 42-34 lead slip as the New Yorkers tied the game up at 43. With 5 minutes left, Kentucky ended the game with a 16-0 run, setting a date in Minneapolis with Illinois. Closing out the Illini, however, would not be as easy. They trailed Illinois 39-32 at halftime due to Wildcats' slow start. At the time up at the beginning of the second half period, Kentucky was unable to pull away as both Hagan and Bill Spivey's fouled out. Hagan was only 3 for 9 from the floor. Spivey had scored 28 points, leading the team to cling to a 70-69 lead without his best player. Taking his place was Shelby Linville, transferred from Miami University of Ohio. Linville quickly added a layup to give Kentucky a 72-71 lead, 72-69 lead. Illinois free throw cut the lead to 72-70. After a stop on the defensive end, Irv Bamaras of Illinois tied the game on a long set shot with 50 seconds to go. So with no shot clock, Kentucky could have held the ball for the last shot. But Linville got the look he wanted with 38 seconds to go and fired away. His shot sailed through, and Illinois wasted no time into setting up his offense. Illinois Don Sunderledge took the early shot, tying the game at 74 with 29 seconds to go. Then Kentucky sophomore Frank Ramsey then held onto the ball, waiting for the seconds to tick by when he explicitly found Linville alone underneath the basket. Ramsey fouled it to Linville, who easily put away the shot for a 76-74 lead. Incredibly 17 seconds still remain. At the call in the time with 12 seconds to go, Illinois attempted to go back to Sunderledge. The Wildcats defenders stood their ground, which to let him within 10 feet of the basket. Able to get a better look, Sunderledge was forced to cast out a long hook shot that bounced off the rim. Wildcats were back in the finals, thanks in no small part to the Adolph Rupp's excellent coaching. He had a system of plays. If you ran the plays like you should, then you should win the game. And he said, we ran the plays like he wanted you to. You heard about it. So they were playing Kansas State for the national championship. So in this game against Kansas State lead was down to 29-27. They were under man, found themselves down 20-13. Hagan came down with a flu. So anyway, Kentucky stormed out to a 54-39 lead midpoint of the second half, thanks to Hagan's solid play down the stretch. They held Kansas State for the 68-58 win in the national championship. And the only player who performed better than Hagan was his other ill counterpart, Spivey, 50 points in the Final Four, earned him most outstanding player honors. Not bad for somebody who had Rodney Lexington as a 7-foot, 160-pound freshman. So with this win, this third national championship, in 4 years. Made Kentucky a dynasty. 3 and 4 years. That's what it did. 3 and 4 years that made them basketball's first dynasty. All right, so I'll be in 1952 Kansas Jayhawks tomorrow. So that's it for tonight. Thanks for those who tuned in. Till then, so tomorrow I'll be in chapter 4, 5, and 6, possibly with Daniel and the 1952 Kansas Jayhawks. So till then, talk to you.